Welcome to Midjourney Monday. We are here and we're going to talk about personalization today. And we know that a lot of people have talked about Midjourney personalization before, but we're taking a different angle. Warren and I each have our own preferences when it comes to using the personalization feature. And so today we are going to look at the different personalizations. We've given very simple prompts, one-word prompts to Midjourney with personalization off and personalization on. And so we're going to compare the difference, but we're also going to compare the difference between each other's personalization settings so that you can see what a rock looks like to me and what a rock looks like to Warren. So Warren, why don't you go ahead and share some rocks or some other things
first I want to talk about personalization as the part of this platform, the tool. So looking at my screen, we have the Explore, Create, Edit, and Personalization. And so now we have this tab where we can turn it on and off. To our viewers, our explorers, you've got to create, you've got to go in and rank various items for this global profile to kick in. And you can also create other profiles to manage really specified personalization if you want to really hone in on a particular look and feel. With my global settings, it's going to review all of that ranking information that I've given and then come up with its best approximation. Where if you create a profile, I don't have any rankings in this one because I just created it. And we'll discuss, a specific profile later on. But I want to show the
opportunities when you create specific profiles to focus on a brand. Like if you're working on a specific project, you want a specific look and feel, you could turn that personalization on. Yeah.
That's one of the great things that they've added is this create a mood board where you can create a specific brand focused kind of thing for your imagery and then really hone that particular aspect for one client or another. And so creatives in marketing or branding, they're going to find themselves with this fantastic tool pushing this envelope for creativity. But let's explore what we did with our creation. So Jacob and I, we did rock, grass, very generic things. So we could get the generic look and feel and then see what that impact was. So rock, grass, trees, building, and car were our base prompts to see what they were, with the personalization off for my side at the beginning. So we have, some very generic images here. They're not, they're cool, they're interesting, but there's not really any nuance to them. Yeah, it created some rocks and grass. But if we go up and we look at rock here, we can see it took a lot of on my own, it made this Castle Grayskull thing because I have liked in my global profile a lot of fantasy art and that kind of thing. And so this is what it generated when I said rock, which is very fascinating that it went that way. And then from the same kind of global profile, that individual that was sitting, strumming his guitar for rock and roll, was just kind of there and enjoy. But this scene, we've got someone that's obviously on stage doing some heavy metal, which is more my preference. So this is a much better image.
Yeah.
And then we have this shale, which is dark and foreboding, which leans into the kind of gothic nature of some of the images that I rank that I enjoy. And the same with this. We've got this kind of, apocalyptic scene or just artistic scene for these rocks. So that's interesting. But let's see what your rocks came up with, Jacob.
Okay, so these are my generic rocks here. And you can see that, yes, there are rocks, but they don't seem particularly styled for anything in particular. I really like that rock, actually. But,
that one's cool. I like that one just sitting out there in the blank.
Yeah. But when you take these rocks, some of which are cool, but then if you go down to, these are the rocks with my personalizations on. So there's some rock music. And I love how it's ascending literally on a rock with this kind of space view. That one is kind of generic as well, but I really like this rock. I like the little guy standing next to it.
What's really fascinating about it is the artistic style that was applied. So if you go to your initial rock, your non-personalization style, go to that one real quick. You know, it's really kind of bland. You look at the style of it. You've got water. This rock is sticking up. I like it. It's very, isolated kind of feel, but there's not a lot of nuance to it. Now, if you go to the other one, we can look at some of the styles that were applied to it. That one right there in the water.
This one has a lot more style to it.
Yeah, you've got those mountains in the background,
a better reflection.
Maybe it's clouds. You've got a better reflection. You've got a shoreline there with some other stones on the beach. So there's a lot more nuance to that image, which is really interesting to see that the personalization taken.
And I think my personalized images, when we look at more of them, you'll see that like there's a bit of a soft ambience that I guess I unconsciously selected, right? And then there's a great deal of light and shadow, which also must have come out in my preference choices, because all of these images have great contrast, which, if you look at the contrast here, and then if we go look at our generic rocks, there's not as much contrast, or it's not as dramatic as my personal preference ones. These are all cool images, but again, it's what the personalization filter does. But consider my personalized rocks versus Warren's personalized rocks, and the different styles that we were able to see. Kind of, it really is drawing out different aspects of what art means. So, did you already show off your generic grass?
No, I haven't yet, but I want to go back to the rocks. I mean, go back to your personalized rocks. And
let's rock. Okay.
It maintained, for the most part, a rock, a large stone for your personalization. But if you look at mine, it made a castle.
Right.
It made a rock musician. It made a textured surface of shale. And it made the landscape portrait or landscape image, and instead of dedicating to yours. So I'm wondering what the large language model behind this was thinking with your preferences versus my preferences.
I think
so. That's an interesting thing to think about.
Abstract images. I think there's a possibility that you maybe have a preference for abstract art over me.
Probably.
Whereas for me, what I see, what stands out in all of my custom images, my personalized images rather, is there's a lot of like soft ambience. Like apparently I really like mood lighting. That's what this tells me, right? I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, cool. So. Yeah.
All right. So let's look at the grass. You said you wanted to look at the grass.
Yeah, let's look at the generic grass. So you show yours first.
So we've got kind of a top-down picture of grass in the yard.
Of a yard.
Yeah, and then a profile picture of grass in the bending in the wind, which I actually like this a lot. And then this looks like, a lawn, and this looks like, I don't know, some grass that's grown up a little high on the edge of wood or something like that. If we go take a look at our
personalizations,
this one is bending in the wind like that one, but it seems more abstract, like you were saying. So the stems of this is not touching the grass, and the grass has this darker shade, and then just this kind of leaning toward green with the white. So that's interesting. I like that. And then this grass is just something like grass you would see at the beach as you come up onto the sand. And then this one, obviously,
I really like that one.
Yeah, this is a nice texture. I like the feel of it, but it goes that light white to dark from the top to the bottom, and the same with this one. So it's drawing from that style, and it's saying, okay, you like the more artistic, the less defined, the less details with the grass. So it's making some assumptions with that global profile. And like you were saying earlier, when you really want to craft something, you're going to want to define a personalization style for that particular thing. But let's look at your grass.
So my grass is just pretty generic, and I don't know what's going on with the faces, right? But just the word grass. And in particular, these are like stock photographs, like very just kind of generic. But if we come down to my personalized grass, we get a lot of contrast between light and dark. I wonder if I just liked some Baroque art or something, or what it's drawing out. It's kind of interesting.
I like that one. That one is really
it's cool.
Neat
I'm a big fan of this. Reminds me of a good Georgia storm growing up. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That storm rolling in, the lightning, that smell in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, the smell. It evokes that. This one kind of has a similar feel. It looks like wind is kind of rolling that grass. Mm-hmm. It's kind of neat. Kind of a neat picture.
I like it.
Yeah, so there's definitely a personalized feel that comes through when you, even something as simple as a one-word prompt like grass. Anything else you want to show off, bro, from yours?
Well, I really like the cars and the distinction between them as well. So here, we've got this kind of artistic, drawing of a car, and then this really head-on, unique kind of luxury car, and then our Beetle or Beetle-esque kind of thing.
And these are without personalization. That's what these are.
This is without personalization. And so we have, kind of generic-ish kind of look and feel for those things. And then we go up to the top of mine, and then it changes it significantly. So we have this more brutalist kind of architecture in the background with the large columns and the dark and more cement kind of thing with this image, kind of small here. And then this interesting one that's, very kind of avant-garde concept.
Looks like Mr. Incredible drives it.
Right. But this one, I just really love the futuristic element of it, the sleekness of it, the minute details of it, and then the really kind of blurred out depth of field on how tight it is on the tail end of that car, and then that depth of field as you're going out into the horizon, which just really, solidifies this image. And then, of course, the final stay there. The final one is kind of reminiscent of the first, where it's got the minimalist car with this large environment around it, which I find really interesting.
I like seeing the personalizations that make me go, I wonder what it is that your eye sees and likes, because I'm looking at my personalizations compared to the generics, and it's making me understand or realize some things that I like about art. And so I'm looking at yours and thinking, you really do like a little more abstraction than I guess I thought. So that's interesting. These are my personalized cars. Let's go up and take a look at the generic cars. All of these pictures are really cool. I think they're pretty fantastic. And I like them, but they are just very much like thing, the car, right? There's not a whole lot else going on artistically. There's zero preference applied to these images. But then if you come down to my cars with the personalized setting on, I don't know that I like these cars any better than the ones that were above, but in terms of artisticness, or perhaps personalized value, there's something in here that I enjoy, right? Which kind of comes out, you have some light and darkness. You see a lot of contrast.
Yeah, you've got that contrast. You really do like that.
Yeah. And then there's a bit of whimsy in some of this too, which is fun. Even though like it's a car and there's definition, there's some softness to each image that I think I do like. it's more of an ambience or a feeling than it is anything else that kind of comes out in the personalized images. And this car in particular, I think would be fun to drive just because it's a neat concept.
No, I agree with you. I think that would be pretty wild. I do want to look at the trees because I just saw something very interesting with the trees,
Okay.
and I love trees. I mean, growing up in Georgia, there's trees everywhere. So on mine, we've got, this
these
is
your
the
personalized or
these are not the
non-
personalized. These are non-personalized. And so they're all kind of, 3 of the 4 are kind of generic, or very similar. So they have just the tree standing on an isolated background.
Okay.
Right? But when we go up to the tree with the file, we get this really interesting feel. So it goes really dark with this one, and it really defines that isolation of it.
It brings out your inner goth. Look at that.
The one that I really like is this one. So we see that personalization just really change the attitude, the angle, the description. And we look at this one, and this one is fantastic. I love this one because of the perspective. We're looking, we're maybe a small child. We're preparing to climb this tree in the late fall, and we're looking up into the sky. And it's just really, really good. And so we can see that this one is more illustrated, so more of that illustration came out. And again, to our explorers, we're only looking at 4 images that it's created. There's a multitude of variables that it's looking at in the global profile when it's making its idea of what that preference or what my preferences are. So my recommendation is definitely, and we'll look at this in a future Midjourney Monday, is making a personal profile to really hone in on what that look and feel is for you for anything that you're going to do in your own fun or work or whatever that is. But the global style really has an opportunity for us to look at it and go, oh, that isn't something I thought about. Like, I didn't think about this tree and just how wonderful it is at that angle. And that one's really cool too. The one you're showing.
No, you were looking at your trees, and I thought, let me look at my personalized trees. So my non-personalized trees, again, pretty generic tree, whatever. But all of my personalized photos have a great deal of contrast, which comes out. But I really like just this little red bird. I'm a big fan of just this image and then that splash of color and just the contrast involved in it. So very neat. I enjoyed this exploration. I think it's a fun thing that for all of you to try as well as you play with Midjourney.
Yeah, and that's what that's one of the things that I love about Midjourney is the play element to it. You're gonna sit there and it's gonna do some really interesting things and it's gonna do some really weird things, but play with it, manage with it, tweak with it, do all sorts of things with it, and you'll come up with something really amazing.
So that's it for our Midjourney Monday today. Make sure to like and subscribe, follow our channel where we share all sorts of tips about Midjourney, ChatGPT, and other AI tools. And we hope to see you next time.